Bundle up. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Stauncch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash, and coming to you from our remote studios, as we have been all year, right, Mr. Nash?
Most of it, yeah. We were just talking about that before the show.
Yeah, most of it. And before we get into the full throttle of the show, it has been an odd year, 2020, and we've had a partner with us throughout the year called Fiverr. And it really is our go-to authority for finding any sort of freelance talent on demand, really. You can find them for any project you're looking for, any price range, any budget. And the pretty cool thing is you can find them globally. John and I have used talent in places as far away as Australia or Germany or Bangladesh and Vietnam. And we always am pleased with the work we get. So if you're looking to try to get something done in these difficult times and trying to find a freelancer, which can be difficult now. A lot of people always ask us, who do you use to do X, Y, or Z? We just direct everybody to Fiverr, right, John?
Give him a shout out. Yeah, I have sworn by Fiverr for a while, Fiverr.com. And in fact, Tim and I are in the midst of doing some web work right now and reaching out to some vendors on Fiverr to help us with WordPress and a few other things. But as I was scrolling through their site, because I have it up here, if you're watching the video, we have the site up here. You know, it's everything you need to basically, it's every service you can imagine they probably offer, from voiceover to writing jingles to web work. Web's one of the most popular ones. You know, graphic design packages, logos, business cards, greeting cards, letterhead, whatever you think of. And if you need help with it, they're going to be able to find, you're going to be found a resource there. And we've had extremely good luck with everybody we've dealt with. And as Tim said earlier, all the artists are all from around the world. You could find someone in Canada, find someone in England, find someone in India, and it's just been a great experience. So we want you to try them out. If it's your first order, please use our code FOCUS to get 10% off. So it's Fiverr.com. On your first order, you'll receive 10% off. Again, it's Fiverr. Find all the digital services and everything you need in one place at Fiverr.com. And again, use our code FOCUS, and you'll get 10% off your first order. So there you go, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. How was your week starting off as we move through the month of November?
I'm not a fan of Mondays, but you know that.
You're not?
No, I'm not a fan of Monday. I think that I detected a little bit of Monday in our last call as well with you, but because we had some stuff we were dealing with last week, and after the rush of the weekend we actually had to handle some really heavy business stuff last week, which you and I had done a lot of work for, and then it ended seemingly successfully, and I think it is successful, but after it settled in our brain pans for a while, Monday, do you think it's going to happen? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I know what you're talking about, but you have to listen. We're alive.
We're at that default now, right?
Well, you have to figure out you're alive and you're living another day, Mr. Nash.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people's craziness in business never ceases to amaze us, and that would probably be the overarching theme. If you're ever to write a book about different people you've dealt with in business, it's probably all the same, right? You've got to figure out. You and I've talked about early jobs when you and I first started working out of college, and although technology has changed, I don't think people's personalities, there's still the different types of people that are in business. I was telling Richard over the weekend a story about when I worked at Walden Books, and the woman that I worked for at the time was 18 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old. Her philosophy was the customer's always wrong. And
one of my favorites. Yeah.
She would give me a litany of reasons why. And we were laughing about it because we had a similar customer service experience here in Rehoboth. And I said, God, this reminds me of 40 years ago when I was working in the bookstore. And it was the same sort of thing, same sort of managerial style. So I think more things change, the more they stay the same in some regards.
On that score, if I had to, when you were asking, about early business stuff and everything, why is it that we remember the bad clients and the bad bosses, or the bosses that were, they were extremes. Like I remember a lot of the good stuff, but the ones that really stick in mind are some of the ones that are either on the far end of the spectrum on the good side, or just super bad. I guess that's what we remember, right?
Well, probably because you learn from them either way. So whether
Yes.
somebody was really very good or they weren't a good manager, you learned from them both ways, and that's what I've always found. I probably had some good bosses, nothing particularly memorable in some regards, but I certainly remember the ones that were great and the ones that were not great. So that's why I said I think sometimes the more things change, they stay the same. That regardless of technology and everything else that's going on, there's still these certain types of people and personalities, and makes you shake your head.
Well, the
So
other thing we talked about earlier before recording was also the fact that we're facing down the winter, and regardless of the elections and regardless of what's happening in Washington, there are some facts on the ground that just aren't changing, and that's that the event is gearing up again. It could be equal to what we experienced earlier in the year, and I think that when you process that, you're like, okay, I went through all the shelves. I went through the photo albums. We got 4 months ahead. You gotta mentally brace yourself for what's
I've got some
ahead, right?
boxes you can go through.
Okay.
You need me to send them to you?
I'll
You
drive
probably
down
just toss them. You wouldn't even open it. You toss them away.
well, you save a lot of clothing too, don't? Did you get rid of a lot? You used to save a lot of clothing.
Well, I'm always thinking I'm going to lose 10 pounds, and I can wear it again.
I mean, they're
I
saving.
don't. My weight fluctuates. See, your weight doesn't fluctuate. You're always within three. You've been within 3 ounces your whole life of what
Well, I'll let you know
your
if
weight.
that theory holds. Today is my annual physical at 5 o'clock.
There you go. So, I could be anywhere. I go from 20 pounds with swing of a hammer. I can lose weight or gain weight. So I have different clothes for different things. Like this thing I have on now,
I
I
like
couldn't
that.
wear when I was, but I certainly couldn't wear it if it would be hanging off me when I was in shape. So
But I
I've got
thought
to
you
figure it
I
all out.
thought you sort of saved things from college days and memory clothing. I'm going to call it memory clothing. Like you wore this shirt to a concert,
Oh, I
or you
stopped
wore
that.
you
I
did
stopped
stop
that.
it. Okay, but you did do that, right?
I did, and somebody told me I had this one crazy outfit. I used to wear these green pants and this plaid shirt, and I would wear it when I was an obnoxious tour guide at college. And I saved it. I couldn't get my big toe in it now, if I was to wear it. But I saved it, and then a friend of mine said to me, rather than saving this stuff, just take a picture of it. So I
Mm.
took a picture of the outfit, not the same, but I took a picture of it, and then I just threw away a whole bunch of Halloween costumes. I had a Dame Edna outfit. I had a Marge Simpson wig, all the stuff, a tie-dye tuxedo. I threw all that stuff away. And the only thing I have kept is I have a bag of rowing shirts. And this goes back to probably 10 years ago when you and I were on Sirius. I'm supposed to send it somewhere to get a quilt made.
I remember this. I do remember the quilt. I do remember this. Yeah.
But yet to happen. But it will go someday before they dry rot, I guess.
And do you have, like, I found the other day, I didn't find it, but I know where it is, but I looked at it again. I have my T-shirt from our graduation at Pomperog.
Yes, I found that as well. I
It's
don't even know if I ever wore that.
no, we never. It was like a giveaway thing. All our
Yeah.
names are on the back. I found you. I found me, and mine's like starting to yellow a bit. Just a little bit because it's been in a drawer for a long time. That would be one you might want to take a picture of. But there's something about touching that takes us back to graduation, right?
Well, my friend Matt had taken a couple of shirts like that people had given me, and he made pillows out of them, and which I thought are pretty cool. So, there's other ways you can repurpose them, I suppose. But these rowing shirts, I don't want to get rid of, and so I will eventually have a quilt made. But that now that you remind me of that, they're in a bag, so I'll have to get on that. So, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, as it goes, as we've been talking about the election and about how polarized the country is, I've got one here that came up, and basically the headline reads this: Trump supporter files restraining order against neighbor for bullying him with pro-LGBTQ chalk art.
Chalk
So
art.
right away we know that maybe it's not the neighbor, maybe it's the neighbor's kids. And this guy says his Biden supporting neighbor is bullying him because he's a Trump supporter. California Donald Trump supporter Michael Mason says his neighbor, who supports President-elect Joe Biden, has bullied his family so much he was forced to file a restraining order. Mason told local news that he was ready to move out of the area because his family didn't feel welcome. The event that seemed to set him over the edge was when neighborhood children drew pro-LGBTQ art on the sidewalks outside of his home in a cul-de-sac. I didn't want to do this, Mason said outside of his home, which is festooned with pro-Trump banners. They're making me have to do this. I'm tired of getting harassed all the time. My kids don't want to come outside.
Oh.
He showed the news video of the neighbor's children taunting his kids after Trump lost the election. He also complained that the kids wrote Black Lives Matter outside of his house, along with a drawing of a rainbow flag with support LGBTQ rights. I went down there and I asked them, well, why don't you write this in front of your house or anyone else's house? And they just laughed at me, he complained. The uninvolved neighbor who lives between the dueling households may have summed the situation up best by declaring it insane, adding, 2020 has been kind of a crazy year for everybody. So that is what caught my eye. And I have to tell you, what the hell, right? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, there's one of them. I've seen this happen a lot with these neighborhoods on the sidewalks where kids will do anything. You do chalk art and people get all wound up about it. It's chalk, right? I mean, it's not permanent.
Yeah.
It'll be washed away. And do you think we'll have a simpler time sometime, Mr. Nash?
It's not going to be Andy Griffith anytime soon. I'm warning you about that. I wish. I wish.
Speaking of that, by the way, one of my favorite Andy Griffith episodes just about happened this weekend here in Rehoboth. So President-elect Biden was in town and he was out mountain biking, and word must have gotten out.
You sent me a picture of the motorcade. That was the text you sent, right? Yeah.
Richard and I had driven down to the beach just to go look at the beach to see what was going on. We get there, and all of a sudden, there's all these camera crews set up, and then we see the motorcade. I said, oh, my God. I said, Biden must be exercising. Let's sit here and see what happens. Well, news must have got out, which reminded me of when Mayberry had the gold truck come through with $7 million of gold, and it was supposed to be quiet, and the townspeople are showing up. There was a woman there, came running in her nightgown with a robe on, people scurrying with phones. It was so ridiculous. And I said, boy, this is one notch above Mayberry, boy. It might even be one notch below. The town was so excited. And then people were like, who is this? Who is this? Why is he here? So, well, he has a beach house here in town.
He lives here. For starters, he lives here, right?
So so he was in town. He did some shopping. He did whatever, but he was down enjoying the beach. But I laughed about when you mentioned the Mayberry time of the very simple time of the town folk coming out to see what's taking place. So my story is from John Waters, who we love, the director John Waters. And he's bequeathed his art collection to the Baltimore Museum of Art. And part of the process, or part of the reason he did this, is because they also agreed to name the bathrooms in his honor. So they're going to be the John Waters restrooms.
Was
at
that
the
something
Baltimore
he
Museum
insisted
of Art.
on? He insisted on that, like that. You have to do this.
Yep,
okay.
He insisted on it. So he said they call him the self-proclaimed Pope of Trash. He announced last Wednesday that he's bequeathing some of his most precious things that he owns, approximately 375 prints, paintings, and photographs, to the Baltimore Museum of Art. And he said the reason he's giving them to Baltimore is when he was a little kid, he would go down to the art museum, and he had bought a poster. He said this was back in the 50s. And it was a kind of a controversial poster, and he hung it in his room, and all his friends and everybody got upset by it. And he said that was when he got the bug to collect art, because he realized that art could provoke shock and cause trouble. So he said,
interesting.
That was when he decided to become a collector. So he has everything from Warhols to Lichtensteins and a number of other things. And he said that and one of the impetus of giving it to him was they were going to name the John Waters Rotunda in his honor. But he also said, what about giving me the restrooms, the John Waters restrooms? He said, they thought I was kidding. I said, no, I'm serious. And he said, it's in the spirit of the artwork I collect, which is a sense of humor. It's confrontational, it's minimalist, and it makes people crazy. So the museum said fine, and so now they're trying to figure out, do they put artwork in the restrooms as well?
Why
So
not,
he
though, right? Why not? It's a
right. So
museum.
he's right. So he said that. So I'll read it because it makes sense. He says Waters is already having fun imagining which pieces will be on view in the restroom. He thinks some that might be the logical choices. He thinks of things as he runs them through of what might be the logical choices. He said, I have a piece by Tony Tassett called I Peed My Pants. He said, I have another one where there's a wedge lump by Mike Kelly, which looks exactly like a giant turd. He said, I also have a piece of chiffon toilet paper from George Stoll. He says, I have a lot of artwork that will work well in the bathroom. So he's he's excited to have the John Waters restrooms at the Baltimore Museum of Art, as well as one of the rotundas in his art on exhibit. But what a sense of humor, right? I mean, he's such a character.
Love John Waters, and this just is so keeping in his personality. I think it's brilliant, and I'm glad you brought it to our attention as it caught our eye, because I think it's a very smart thing. And he's a son of Baltimore, right?
Yeah, he is, and he said, and that's what I said earlier. His story very much about the fact that he learned early on that art can make people uncomfortable in some cases, or create shock. And he said he learned that from going as a little kid to the Baltimore Museum of Art, and that's why he wanted to give it to them. So good for him.
John Waters was am I correct that Divine was also from Baltimore?
Yes, a lot
Okay.
of his characters were. I think was it Mink Stoll too.
Yep, they were all
But there
like
was
locals to him.
yeah, quite a cast of characters. You know our friends Mark and Carl here.
Yep.
And Mark, in particular, used to hang out with a woman who lives here, Sandra, who hung out with Waters when they were kids. And she lives down here in Rehoboth now. And she has her story. She just shake her head. She shakes her head.
In other words, next time we visit, we need to hang out with her.
Yes. And you'll love her. She's
She'll
quite a
have
character.
stories.
Quite a character. Time for business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So, Mr. Nash, do you know the name Rose Knox?
Not the person, but I have seen Knox on a box in a kitchen,
Knox
namely,
on a-
namely my
Knox.
mother's or my grandmother's kitchen. Yeah.
Knox on a box. So I did not know Rose. She popped up as her business birthday today. She was one of the foremost women in American business overall. She was born November 18th, 1857. She died at 92 years old in 1950. And she ran the Knox Gelatin Factory in Johnstown, New York, after her husband died. And she won the respect of leading businessmen and women at the time. But there weren't too many businesswomen at the time. She really was at the forefront nationally and globally of women that ran businesses. So she had met her husband. She grew up in Ohio. She met her husband in 1881, and they had moved to Johnstown, New York. And she was at home one night making gelatin for desserts, and her husband was watching her and came up with this idea of, I wonder if we should make this on a large scale and do a factory. So they opened a factory, the Knox Gelatin Factory in Johnstown, and which was unique at the time. She was very much involved in the business and worked with him, doing everything from recipe books to managing business affairs for the factory. He also allocated her a weekly allowance, which sounds funny now because we would
An
think
allowance. I know.
right, of course you would take care of your wife, but she said that was actually very helpful to her because it helped her budget money and manage money. And the one big part about that is that her husband died in 1908, and so she took the factory over. And why she had so much acclaim is she really felt everybody was equal. And I was surprised when I read some of these things. They said she made changes immediately on the first day of work when she took over running the factory. And the first one was she closed the back door. So women and men worked together in the factory, but women had to come in the back door and men would come in the front. And
That
she
is
said, nope.
so weird. I'm sorry. That is
Isn't
so
it?
weird. Yeah.
So she stated that there was only going to be one door that people came in and out of, and that was the front door, and there was going to be no separate doors. She also overheard one of the top executives say he was not going to work for a woman, so she forced him to resign and said, okay, then you're not going to work here. And she
Good
also
for her.
she created the 5-day work week. She also gave workers 2 weeks of paid vacation, which again was unheard of at the time. And they said the factory made it through the Depression, one of the few businesses in that area, particularly, that didn't have to release any workers. And they said she was a Presbyterian in her religion and a Republican in her politics. And but she received over the years countless accolades from all kinds of business associated organizations of being a leader in her field. And she was actually the first woman on the board of directors for the American Grocers Association in 1929. And very much they said she's been honored in a number of distinctive awards in New York State for what she did for women and for business. So happy birthday to Rose Knox.
I think it is so cool. I love when you find for business birthday a woman you can profile, and especially one from the, with 92-year lifespan, going from 1857 into 1950. So not only did she see the turn of the century, and think of all the things that she's seen in her lifetime, right. But when you describe her relationship with her husband as well, a true partnership, right?
Yeah, it was, and that's why it's funny sometimes when we think about it. Hey, listen, women only had the right to vote for 100 years or so ago. So it's not like it was commonplace as it is now. But you can imagine how tough it must have been for her to all of a sudden say, "I'm going to run this factory."
Well, on top of the fact, you lose you lose your friend and your partner in life, your husband, right? And then you decide you're going to run the business that he ran. Yeah, and you do it really well, and you bring about some workplace changes that are still with us today. And thank you. I love that one. It's a good business birthday.
Thanks, Rose. So many of you know that Deep Discount's been with us here on the Focus Group, and we love to have you go support them. Right now, they've got a site-wide winter sale going on, and if you go to focusgroupradio.com, please click on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away. We like you to go through our site because then we get credit. And then people know that you found Deep Discount by your friends at the Focus Group. So, Mr. Nash, what did you find this week on the site-wide sale?
I was super thrilled to find out that Deep Discount has a movie that I highly recommend. It's a documentary. You and I love documentaries, about 97 minutes long. And it's all about the life and times of Ray Harryhausen. And depending on what you grew up watching, Jason and the Argonauts, the Ray Harryhausen, it came from the deep. Like, he was the master of something called stop motion animation, where he'd make a puppet with an arm, like a metal armature, and you'd move it a frame, move it a frame, move it a frame. And there was this, and a lot of people grew up watching his movies. And 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 20,000 Fathoms, It Came From Beneath, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, right. Mysterious Island was one of the ones that I totally remember as a kid, because these people get shipwrecked on an island that Captain Nemo actually operates, and they have to fight off enormous bees and enormous crabs that have been genetically engineered to solve the world's food problems or something. But many filmmakers, Peter Jackson of Hobbit and Lord of the Rings fame, Phil Tippett, who is a famous stop-motion animator responsible for the walking tanks in Empire Strikes Back, Terry Gilliam, that would be Monty Python, Dennis Muren, John Landis, Guillermo del Toro, James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, they all kind of worshipped at the altar of Ray Harryhausen. And the wonderful thing about this documentary is he's actually interviewed on it as well. So it's people he inspired, and it's him. So I think it's a must-have. It's a good $13.33 for the DVD, Blu-ray actually, and it probably looks great. And it's 97 minutes long. So it's Ray Harryhausen Special Effects Titan is the name of the movie.
I love documentaries. So I'm sure I would love that. I found something. It was funny. I was clicking around through, and this popped up, and it might be my love of, you and I grew up with MTV when they actually played videos of music.
Yeah.
And
music television, MTV, right?
Music television, right. So this popped up. It's the Voodoo Lounge Uncut, and it's a DVD of the Rolling Stones concert in Miami, 1994, and had everybody from, they had Sheryl Crow as a guest star, Robert Cray, Bo Diddley, and the song list and the set list is unbelievable. So this disc, or this set that comes from Deep Discount, it's under $20. It's $19.71 is the total price, It's the DVD of the concert plus 2 CDs, so you get the music as well
Whoa,
as
whoa, whoa!
having the actual music concert.
Just a little under $20, 1971. You get
Yeah.
the concert and you get music discs, right?
Right, and there's Whoopi Goldberg does the opening of introducing the band, and then it is every possible hit song and then some from the Rolling Stones. And I had a whole new appreciation for the Stones. You remember Karen? I worked with at Subaru. She had tickets to a Rolling Stone concert, and she asked me to go, and I wasn't a huge fan, but I thought, I'll go. I'll see what it's like, and it blew me away. You've often talked about people who know how to perform and people that are performers. The Rolling Stones are, I've not been to a Bruce Springsteen concert, but I imagine similar thing of he knows how to entertain a crowd. The Rolling Stones know their audience, and they know how to put on a show. And I was blown away. It was so much fun. And if anybody gets a chance to see them as they still tour,
Yeah, they do.
you should do that. But what I like about these music videos, I have one from Dead or Alive. Remember Dead or Alive?
Oh, one of Bob's favorite bands. Yep, totally.
Right. I have a disc of theirs that's video, and I'll put them on. Like if we have people coming over, you just have that on, and it runs. The concert will run for 2 hours or whatever. And so the Stones wouldn't be a good one. I have Blondie. I've got Till Tuesday. I have these kind of odd discs that have concerts with people on them, and Annie Lennox as well. So I think this is a good choice.
Good pick.
So what's the new release this week?
It's A Wonderful Life in 4K, meaning it is probably the sharpest you'll ever see this print. It's been cleaned up, as they always do when they do a 4K or Blu-ray release. It's Frank Capra's perennial holiday classic, one of the most beloved films of all time. I love It's a Wonderful Life. I have a love-hate with It's Wonderful Life because I think it's overplayed at the holidays. I wish it was like Wizard of Oz when we were kids. They show it once only. You got to sit at the TV. But it's Donna Reed, Thomas Mitchell, Lionel Barrymore. Of course, it's just a great James Stewart, Bedford Falls. He's banker George Bailey. We all know the story. I hope you've seen it. And
will you watch it if you were flipping through and it popped up? Would you watch it?
I
don't
will.
know. Is it played on? I guess it was played maybe on some cable.
A lot of networks carry it. They have the right to carry it. And I will tell you this though: if I bought this version, the Blu-ray or 4K, I would definitely watch it because it just looks different when you play it off Blu-ray or a player. And I would be curious to see how crisp and beautiful it is because, of course, it's a black and white film. And I think
is this your favorite holiday movie? Would you say?
Bob kind of turned me into a Bishop's Wife fan.
Right.
And that's the one where Cary Grant comes. He's an angel. He's going to help David Niven build a cathedral, or so he thinks. And it happens around Christmas time. And I had never seen the movie before I met Bob. And now that I know it, I really do love it a lot. So that might be one of my perennial favorites now. So wrapping up with Deep Discount, remember to go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo, and that will start you on your shopping extravaganza. This week, what did we talk about? I picked a documentary called Ray Harryhausen, Special Effects Titan. Highly recommended. I love documentaries, and I love going behind the scenes and learning about individuals, their inspiration, and who they in turn inspired. Tim picked The Voodoo Lounge. It's a DVD plus 2 CDs. It's a full-length Rolling Stones concerts. None of us have seen a live event for a long time. I think that this is a great way to kind of mimic it, so I think it's a great pick, Tim. And the release this week is It's a Wonderful Life on 4K Blu-ray. And in fact, I think this also comes with a digital download as well, widescreen edition. Highly recommend it. So there you go, folks. Thank you, Deep Discount, as boys in the booth used to say, right? So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have a shop talk about the future of cable and broadcast TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now, back to The Focus Group with Tim and John.
Glamour today is nothing but a tight skirt, loose hips, and wet lips.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Make it work. Make it work. Make it work. Work.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to find out all about us at focusgroupradio.com. And when you are listening or watching or scrolling through with us, be sure to subscribe, like, or rate us. Everybody always asks us about those ratings and stuff, and so we appreciate it when we, of course, when we get good ones, right, John?
People do actually ask how many people liked, how many people rated.
I
Okay,
don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's,
I like toothpaste. I like toilet paper. And
how
you
many
like the
cars did you
focus
sell
group.
in
You want to
commercial
watch
in the
it.
third
Yeah.
quarter in the football game? Right? I don't know.
That's one of your favorite lines.
So, hey, John had found this article. It's a combination of business story and I think also culturally of where we are as a consumer of media. And the headline is Media Executives Are Finally Accepting the Decline of Cable TV as they plot a new path forward. And I was surprised by these numbers. And when it opened up, the story said they expect 25 million U.S. households to cancel their pay TV subscriptions over the next 5 years. And that's on top of the 25 million homes that have already cut the cord since 2012. And they talk about how these streaming services have kind of usurped, I guess, the viewing habits of most people because a lot of these cable providers rely on advertisers to obviously keep running, and people also are having to buy bundles of products, which many times John and I have complained many times that we don't particularly want. I don't need the music. I don't really want the sports package. But there are certain things I like, and we've always wondered why you just can't a la carte say, here's the menu, here's what I want, and here's what will cost me, right? Because there's so much stuff on there, and your cable, I'm sure, is the same as mine, that I'll never watch, and I have zero interest in watching, and I have to pay for it.
You know, one of the biggest, yes, and one of the biggest takeaways that I had, the article is rather long, and it's kind of intriguing because what you really have going on here is it's a confluence of a lot of interests at play. You have the media companies that are actually producing what we watch, Viacom, Viacom, CBS, NBC. Everybody has something we want to see, or they're creating it. Then you have the distribution, which is the cable companies, and they themselves are now actually supplying television or something. Like I know that our cable network Spectrum has Spectrum Originals. You can actually watch a show that you would never see anywhere else. And then you have the streaming platforms. You have Netflix and Amazon Prime, and you have Disney Plus and now Peacock. And the thing that got me most intrigued by this was one of the executives said it wasn't a question of content that they missed out on. It's the technology advantage that these streamers have, because the world we live in with cable TV, it's piped a certain way. It's one-way street. It comes into your home. Anybody who struggled with the video on demand system of their cable network knows that it's just not as intuitive or friendly to use as your Roku or your Apple TV. I don't know how you fight against that. I really don't.
Right.
And if you gave me the option of stripping away everything and saying, I want to pay for high-speed internet and I want the following networks. I want BBC America. I want AMC, Turner Classic Movies. I want my local news. Maybe I want CBS Sports or NBC when the Tour de France is running or something. But other than that, I could literally live with 12 channels and some streaming stuff. Could you do the same?
I could do the same, and I am threatening to do it. So our friends Brian and Rich had cut the cable, but they kept everybody needs internet access, right? So they kept the high speed internet. What Xfinity and Comcast has done in the PA area is essentially jacked up the price of high speed internet to the point where it almost doesn't make sense not to have the cable package because
did they go back to cable then? Did they go back?
Well, so what they ended up doing, they tried to do what everybody says. Okay, so they had a subscription to Amazon Prime, a subscription to Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, and then all these different remotes and things, and then things would freeze up, and they couldn't. And it got so frustrating for them to just say, "Let's watch X, Y, or Z." Well, let's try to get it through Apple TV. Well, now try it on Amazon Prime. Now to see if we can get it through this system or that system. And they ended up going back to cable because it ended up just getting frustrating. And I know a couple of other people that have done the same thing. But I find myself, I'm watching less cable TV because
Yeah.
It's not appointment TV anymore for us. And they use the example of Seinfeld, Friends, and some of these other shows in syndication, where if you would go to TBS or TNT or something to watch them, you knew you had to do it at a certain time. And now with services like a Netflix or Amazon that have access to all these other shows, you can just go on and binge watch the whole thing whenever you want. And you don't need to do that. So I get very frustrated with cable. I find myself watching less.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And, last week on our show, we profiled a quick little story where Netflix in France was going to be debuting a kind of a linear TV experiment, almost like you just turn on the TV and whatever's playing is playing because it's some kind of group playlist, which is kind of like TV used to be with the 3 networks. And your example of your neighbors cutting the cord is exactly what I've been encountering with people. So, our friend Greg, who's done copy work for us, he got rid of it. He went to internet only, and then he bought a subscription to YouTube Red or something. It's like your local stations plus a bunch of stuff. By the time all was said and done, between that and a couple streaming packages in the internet, it was exactly what he was spending with the cable bill prior to that. So
right, and you got 3 more remotes,
and you have a bunch more remotes, and you're beholden to whatever YouTube is putting up in terms of their content for the network. It's a puzzle, and I think it's going to be a very messy thing. This article concludes as follows. They basically say for the next several years, the empires are standing firm. They're not going to. Comcast is not crumbling. Neither is Spectrum or Viacom or the big media companies. But the math, the devil's in the details, and the math is not in their favor. As millennials come of age, they just don't see the need to get cable because they get their news from Facebook or Instagram or, God help us, Twitter.
Right.
Right. And they watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. And they'll buy it or they'll stream it, but they're not worried about a cable TV thing. In fact, I think that one of the stats in here was most new homes or people who move of recently, at least I've read this a couple places, they don't even bother calling the cable company. They just want internet put in. And then the game that you were talking about a minute ago, Tim, is exactly true. Well, if you're not a bundled customer, high-speed internet's actually going to be $80 or $90. So now you're in that zone of, all right, what am I doing? It's crazy.
Right, for $120, I'll get the basic package. But then my biggest frustration with any of the cable companies is if you don't pay attention to your bill, it creeps up.
Yep.
And they don't tell you. It just keeps creeping up. And I look at it every month and I get aggravated. But and I do pay. I look at all the charges of things. I don't want the sports package. I don't want the children's channels. I don't want the music. The music one for me just drives me crazy. That I don't know if you get a music cost.
We do. And we have Pandora, we have SiriusXM, we have our iTunes libraries. I don't need the television to give me music. Yeah.
Because the speaker's so great out of my TV to listen to classical music.
Well, we have ours going through a sound bar. So there you have it. A reckoning in the broadcast and cable TV industries is coming. And it's a reckoning that's not going to only be for the carriers or the providers of these services, but also the media companies that produce the shows we watch, because they have to keep producing them. They have to put them somewhere, and that's going to be and it's going to affect advertising revenue. A whole big thing. It's a whole big universe that's going to be affected by this.
Yep.
All right, so there you go. Thank you for joining us this week here on the Focus Group, and we want to thank Deep Discount for being a partner of ours here on the show. It's a site-wide sale this all month actually, and it's a great time to get some wonderful deals over there. I picked a documentary on Ray Harryhausen. Tim picked something called Voodoo Lounge. I just like the name of it. It's a Rolling Stone concert. You get the whole concert on video, and you get music discs as well. And the release this week was It's a Wonderful Life on 4K video, meaning here's the word I use, it sparkles. Sparkle, Neely. Sparkle, Neely. Sparkle. So we want to remind you to don't text and drive, arrive alive, and mask up and stay healthy, and we'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.